is Anika, and I'm actually the event coordinator this year for Curious. And I'm really happy to be presenting at this panel for students interested in post-secondary pathways in the math and tech fields. And during this panel, feel free to basically drop questions in the chat at any point, and we'll try to get to them so that we can leave time enough for the questions that I've already prepared, plus the questions that you guys might have. So without further ado, I'll just let the panelists introduce themselves.
Hi guys, my name is Govind and I live in Markham currently. I attend UWaterloo and I'm in the program CS, Computer Science. Some of the interesting courses that I took in my first semester of classes would be computer science, obviously. I got to learn functional programming, which is something that I haven't really done before. And I got to learn calculus, which is actually really different from the calculus you learn in high school because they delve a lot more into the theory and stuff. And since high school is a lot of just computational stuff, it was pretty interesting to learn. The required courses I had to take to get into my program would be advanced functions, calculus, English, and I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't think there were any more. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. And why I chose this program, I mean, basically in grade 11, I went to a bunch of university fairs and I visited a bunch of universities, and UWaterloo just seemed very, very welcoming and cool to attend. And obviously there's the co-op co-op factor. Waterloo has one of the most reputable co-op programs in the country, so it's pretty cool to attend University of Waterloo. Yeah.
All right, and so that was Govind, and let's go ahead with Hewitt.
Sure. So, hey, my name's Hewitt. I'm at Waterloo for Mechatronics Eng right now, and Mechatronics is kind of just like a combination of Comp Sci or Comp Eng, Elec Eng, and Mech Eng. I am working on switching it to Comp Eng right now, though. In terms of the most interesting courses I've taken, obviously a couple of functional programming ones, and then I also took a microprocessors course last semester, and that was super interesting just in terms of getting to more of the low level and thinking about like how code actually works when it gets compiled, and I found that really interesting. Required courses in high school, because it's Eng, I think the ones that were required were English, physics, chem, the two maths like calc and advanced functions, I think. And I think that was it. I'm trying to remember. It was a while ago. The reason I chose Waterloo was primarily for co-op. Like, I think that's what everybody who's at Waterloo here is going to say, but that really appealed to me, and just the idea of being able to try out a bunch of different companies before I graduate and being able to kind of bounce around and figure out what I like was super, super interesting. But also just the general atmosphere of Waterloo, and it seemed like a really kind of friendly school and really conducive to learning and collaborating with other people. And then I just picked mechatronics because I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, and I kind of thought I wanted to do robotics, and mechatronics seemed to combine a bunch of different fields, so I could kind of branch out into different things and have more options available to me. Yeah, that's it.
So that was Hewitt, and now Nicole, if you'd like to go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Nicole, and I'm in second year studying engineering science at the University of Toronto. So if you don't know engineering science, you do 2 years. The first two, general engineering, so you take a variety of courses through the first 2 years, and then in third and fourth year, you specialize. So that can include like machine intelligence, robotics, aerospace, maths, stats and finance, energy systems, and more. And the reason I chose this program is because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do something tech related, something engineering related. So I took this program, and yeah, to get into this is just the regular advanced functions, calculus, English, what was said before. And they really focus on looking at your extracurriculars for this. So you have to have like really good involvement in other things outside of school, because they want to see like if you're able to multitask and more. Also, UofT offers a PUI program, but although it's not as great as Waterloo's, you have that option as well to have like industry experience. And yeah, one interesting course that I took this year actually was this digital systems course, and you got to learn assembly language, specifically for the ARM processor, which I thought was really cool. I've never done anything like that, and it's just a different just a different programming language that it's unlike any other, such as Python or C. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Nicole. And if we went ahead with Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Nicholas Macbeth. I'm from Montreal, born and raised, and I currently go to Concordia University, which is also in Montreal. I am in software engineering and in the co-op program. So I chose Concordia because honestly, in Montreal, if you want to go to an English school, you either have McGill or Concordia, and if you want to go to French school, you have UDM and UQAM and ETS. But I went to Concordia instead of McGill because there's the co-op program, and I found that super interesting because being able to do internships in between your school semesters is really cool because you get some industry experience and you get to build up to your CV and your resume and stuff, which is super interesting to me because I'm a super I like to get into the practical and testing out stuff and exercises and stuff instead of like handling the theory side of school. Most interesting courses I've taken, I'd probably say are I guess the ones I also find the most important in the software engineering curriculum, and that would be operating systems, data structures and algorithms, and system hardware. Everyone kind of knows about data structures and algorithms, and the operating system class is also very important. But system hardware was, like the previous two people said, super interesting because that was like very low level. There was some assembly. There was some computer architecture and organization, like how all the different components communicate through your motherboard and with the bus and everything, which is super cool. And we also built on a breadboard our own little computer with its own clock and everything, which is really cool. So up to now, it's been really fun. And Concordia has a very practical approach to schooling, which is lots of fun. And you have the co-op option. And the required courses, it's just basically the same. Since it's in engineering, it's just the normal, physics, chemistry, English, math, all that. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And going ahead, let's go to Farzan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Farzan, like Tarzan, but with an F. And I'm a second year software engineering student at McMaster. As you probably know, like after a full year of general engineering courses, you can then decide your specified stream based on what you like and how your grades are looking. In my case, I chose software. Your first year of engineering at Mac is going to be different than mine because last year I took 12 courses, but this year they're kind of merging a handful of courses into one big course, which is kind of meant to demonstrate how the topics can work together. I really enjoyed the Python programming course in the first year, so hopefully that's still enjoyable because that's one of the courses being merged. I chose McMaster because honestly, because of the homey, cozy community that it's so proud of. There's always resources, guidance, and help that you can reach out for at any time. I know we're online now, but I also really like the campus. It's not overwhelming, and there's also an app that helps you get around, which was really useful for my first year. We also have a quality Reddit, which kind of seals the deal. During senior year, I had to take 6 university level courses, with 4 of them being, I think, calculus, chemistry, physics, and English. There was also an asynchronous interview where you answered some typed questions and you spoke into your webcam. I think the cutoff was around 85% for engineering, but that's probably changed now. You could check that out on the admissions tab on the McMaster site. The first semester of software engineering consisted of calculus, circuits, discrete math, Java, and a course called Software Development Skills, which focused on Bash and NASM programming. I really enjoyed the Java and NASM courses this semester. They consisted of a lot of problem solving and puzzle solving, which I find intriguing. Unfortunately, it's no secret that the discrete math course is possibly the most time-consuming course that you will take in software. So get ready for that. If you're coming here, I think I spent more time on that one course this semester than all my other courses combined. But the profs are honestly always trying to improve it. I also took an AI elective, which discussed the history, present, and potential and ethics of AI. So no actual programming, but it was a fun general course. If anyone's looking for an elective, it was called Innovate. I am in the co-op stream as well. So after taking a co-op training course next semester, I will be given access to a job board and I can apply for positions. You normally take this course in your first year, but I wanted to lower the weight. So I took my electives in the summer and I left this co-op course for the second year. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Farzan. And Tara?
Hi, my name is Tara. I'm from Richmond Hill, and I'm currently a second-year student studying computer science at Western University, and I'm hoping to pursue a minor in software engineering as well. So the required courses that I needed from high school were calculus and English, and then we could choose two of advanced functions, data management, I think, physics, and any one of the sciences. The thing about computer science at Western, it's actually a part of the general science program in first year. So you're actually applying to be just a general science student, and then you specialize in the computer science field. The reason why I chose Western, it was for a multitude of reasons, but I think at that time in grade 12, I wanted to pursue Ivey business, which Western is pretty known for its Ivey Business School, and in first year, you can choose whether you want to be an Ivey or not. There's a different application process for, it's called AEO, which is like Advanced Entry Opportunity. So I wanted to do a dual degree with Ivey Business and Computer Science. And this year, I actually ended up dropping Ivey and just focusing on computer science. And I also chose it just for its campus life and extracurriculars. I believe Western has some of the best extracurricular clubs, and whether it be like hosting hackathons or case competitions, I think it's all just really just interesting, and you're able to kind of get out of school a bit and explore different opportunities throughout campus. And some of the interesting courses I've taken this year, I took a course called Planet Google, which was really cool. It focused on like a different perspective of technology and the advancements in technology. So we looked into like facial recognition technology and predictive policing algorithms and things like that, and talked about big data and kind of like both sides of it. So like the pros and the cons of these new technologies. So it was really like eye-opening. And then one of the most important courses, definitely data structures and algorithms. It kind of went over all the fundamentals of computer science as a whole, and it was really helpful in terms of the learning and just the concepts that were taught. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you. And now let's go on to John.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Kien. I was originally born in the Philippines, but then I moved over to Canada, and I am currently living in Mississauga. I am a second-year computer engineering student at McMaster University. So some of the required courses that you will need to take in high school in order to get into McMaster Engineering, you need to take English, calculus, physics, and chemistry, all U level, and 2 other U level or mixed courses. And some of the most interesting courses that I have taken this year would be, especially this year, would be logic design, which talks about different logical components like AND gates and OR gates and how they can be used and manipulated to create things like computer memory, which was really interesting to me. And another really fun course that I took in my first year was an elective called Mental Health and Illness, which talks about the social impacts and social impacts of mental health diagnosis and all of that kind of stuff, and it was just super fun to learn. Oh, and so the reason why I chose to go into McMaster engineering was because of the Engineering 1 program. I was very undecided on what specialization I wanted to choose between like mechanical engineering or computer engineering. And so I felt that a general course would be best for me. And overall, I am very happy with this decision. And I was able to decide on computer engineering. In addition, Engineering 1 also gives just like a good taste of all kinds of engineering fields like electrical and software and mechanical and so on. So yeah.
Thank you, John. And Jackie?
Hi, I'm Jackie from Montreal. I'm in economics and math at McGill. The interesting course that I've taken in my curriculum was actually database systems, where we covered really the foundations of like how we structure data. It didn't focus on SQL, but it's basically where it went towards because that's the structure that we explored. So the reason why I chose McGill is actually because it's just my local English university. And McGill, compared to, I assume, most of the universities that were covered by the other panelists here, is that McGill does not help in finding internships, which if that is a big point for you, know that McGill, if you choose McGill, internships will have to be fully found on your own. That's it.
All right. And then Grace?
Hey guys, my name is Grace. I'm from Mississauga, and I just finished my first term in the Computer Science and Business Administration double degree at Waterloo and Laurier. However, moving on, I'm going to drop the business degree and focus on a single computer science degree at Waterloo. I did the IB program at White Oaks Secondary School, and the courses that were required, just like Govind mentioned, were advanced functions, calculus and vectors, and English. I chose to do the CS BBA program because I was honestly not really sure if I wanted to go to the business route or the computer science route. But at the first term, I really enjoyed the computer science route much more than the business route, and hence why I'm dropping the business degree. I actually have very, very little experience with programming or computers in general, and I was kind of scared of attending Waterloo because everybody seemed to know everything and already had like 100 different side projects. But after my first term, I saw that Waterloo's first year courses are very beginner friendly, and that to succeed, you really only need to be passionate and have the determination to work hard. As for the BBA side, there's a lot of emphasis on teamwork and how to sell your ideas to judges, just like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank. This year, our case competition was pitching an idea to TD Bank on how to attract more consumers to use online banking, which I thought was pretty fun to do. Oh, I'm a Waterloo-based student, so there's some differences if you're applying to Waterloo and Laurier, and if you have more questions, you can DM me or something. Yeah.
All right. So that hits basically everybody on the panel today. Just before we get in, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. Like if you have any questions just to start off, you can drop them in the workshops chat, and Ishita will actually like read them out and interrupt me midway just to make sure that I actually see them, because as it is right now, I don't have my double monitor, so I can't really see them. So yeah, but let's begin the actual panel questions that were specified before. So question 1 for the panelists. What programming languages would you recommend learning before coming into your program? So we could start off with Govind.
To be honest, your first semester at Waterloo, because I've only done my first semester, the only language that you really code in is Racket, which is a Lisp-based program, and it's the course is basically focused on functional programming. So, I mean, if you want to go ahead and learn Racket, that's fine, but I don't think it's completely necessary. Sorry, I'll type it in. It's Racket. Yeah, but it's not completely necessary because the course itself is very, very well structured, and the profs are extremely helpful. And picking up a language shouldn't be too hard. So Racket in itself is pretty interesting and it's fun too. And the assignments they give especially are pretty cool as well. Yeah. In 1B though, which is my second semester, the CS course you take focuses on C. Well, the one that I'm taking focuses on C. So probably learning that is a good idea. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so then Racket and C. So then what about you, Nicole? What kind of programming languages would you recommend learning before coming in?
So for engineering science, in first year you code in Python and C. So if you'd like to learn that, it would be helpful. But they do start from scratch from the beginning. And in second year, you just do assembly for the ARM processor, but that's also going to be beginner friendly. So I would recommend just Python and C to get you started for engineering science at U of T.
Right, right. And Farzan, I guess you could say it's similar as well because you talked about learning Python in first year.
Yeah, definitely. Python is your first year programming language, but then before it used to be C for your second year, but I think from this year and on they moved to Java. And honestly, HTML and CSS, those are just fun to learn if you want to look into those, but Python and Java.
Right. Okay. And then just a quick interruption from the main question, but there was a question for Tara. What made you decide to drop Ivey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there were a couple of reasons, and I know other people kind of made the same decision that I did, so it's not super rare. But I just felt like after first year, my interests kind of better aligned with more computer science than the combination of computer science and business. So I really just wanted to focus on software engineering and like programming. But on the other hand, I knew that even if I wanted to pursue business, I would still be able to pursue like product management roles and things like that, even without having an actual business degree. I think the fundamental thing that I needed was just a computer science degree. And the other reason was that I was really attracted to Ivey because of its network of alumni and just students. It's really like prestiged. But I was able to actually find a network myself of like computer science students and computer science alumni just through joining extracurriculars and clubs. So one of the biggest clubs and kind of factors that helped me in making this decision was Women in Technology Society at Western. And once I joined that, I was able to have such a broad network of other females in tech, and I no longer kind of needed, an additional network of Ivey alumni. But I do know people who are pursuing like the Ivey dual degree, and it is really helpful, especially if you are interested in more business. But yeah.
Awesome. And then I guess segueing back to question one, what programming languages would you recommend before coming into your program?
Yeah, so there are two kind of programming courses that you take in first year. The first one is Python. It starts from scratch, so honestly, like you don't need to, but it would be helpful kind of getting a head start in Python. And then right after that course, there's the second course in first year, and for the remaining courses in second year, you'll mainly be using Java. So I would say either Python or Java. They're fairly similar, so I'm sure if you learn one, you'll be able to pick up the other one really quickly.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess for a kind of like different perspective, Jackie, I think you talked a little bit about SQL, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, so the database class is actually a like second or third year level class with a decent number of prerequisites. The McGill path really just focuses on Java, but there are certain classes that teach you specific languages. For example, there is a class on functional programming that does it through OCaml, and then the database class does SQL, and yeah.
Right. Adding on to that, let's take a look at what about Nicholas, to give us a little more perspective. Like, what kind of languages did you have to learn, or would you recommend learning before coming into your program?
So I'll probably answer this a little differently than the others have. I would say before university, I wouldn't learn all those languages that you're actually going to learn in school. I'd focus on learning the fun languages, if you will. Do things with JavaScript, Go, maybe Python, stuff like that, because you will for sure get all the information you need on the more serious languages, if you will, when you're in university. So I would say if you want to start learning and building side projects, maybe learn the languages that you find more fun, find more interesting, specific language that you need to build a certain side project, stuff like that, so that when you get into university, you'll learn everything you need to learn about those more serious languages, but you'll also have those fun languages around that you can use anytime that you want if you're making a side project or going to a hackathon or something. And I'll also recommend that a lot of those languages that you learn in school, like C and Java, aren't the best if you're going to be using them in technical interviews. And it's really important to have a very, very strong knowledge about at least one language where you can do technical interviews in, that is easy to use and like not super strongly typed or whatever, so that you can go into interviews and not do that many mistakes, and have that one language that is like your mother tongue in programming, so that you can nail those technical interviews, because that's going to be important to think about when in your third and fourth years in CS and software engineering. So yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Oh, just to
go ahead.
Go off of what you mentioned about the technical interview. I think there's a question in the chat, just wanting a clarification what a technical interview is. So if you want to quickly talk about that, maybe.
Yeah, so technical interviews are how like 99% of tech companies will evaluate computer science and software engineering type of positions. So it's basically, so you'll probably have one aspect of the interview that is more behavioral questions or design questions, like how to design or a big architecture of a certain software project or something like that. But there's almost always an aspect where you're asked a very specific algorithmic question. So you have, let's say, a certain input, certain array, whatever, a tree, something, and you need to come up with an algorithm to come up with the proper answer. So you're going to need a very like a language, like a programming language that you're fairly proficient in, to be able to quickly write that algorithm to answer the interviewer's question. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about technical interviews. It's an interview where the interviewer will ask you an algorithm-based question within the interview.
Right. And then just actually adding on to that for the rest of the panelists, and for the rest of the audience, of course, checking out stuff like LeetCode and maybe HackerRank, that would be like one of your better assets if you're trying to prepare for a technical interview, just from my own personal experience. And I think John can actually relate to this, because we were talking about this at one point. John, remember when we were talking about something about LeetCode and HackerRank and how that actually prepares you for interviews? I guess going off that, what do you think? What is your basic tool, I guess, for preparing for these sorts of interviews?
Oh, well, the code that I am most proficient in is Java. And so because of my knowledge with that, I would definitely use that for my interviews, because that's the one that I know the best. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just to bring off that, what languages did you actually recommend learning before coming in? I mean, I know Farzan talked about Python in first year, which most McMaster, all McMaster students do have to learn. But what languages would you recommend?
Yeah, for sure, Python. As Farzan said, Python is definitely good to learn, but all of the courses are from the ground up. So you don't necessarily need to learn a language in order to get really prepared for the course. You can just go in with no programming knowledge, and they'll be able to teach you just the basics of Python. And you don't really need any previous programming knowledge in order to get into that stuff, in order to get into the course. Yeah.
Right. And then, okay, let me segue into the next question, actually, where it's, what was your transition like from high school / CEGEP to university? And I'd like maybe Hewitt to start us off with this one.
Sure. So I did IB in high school. So my transition was actually pretty smooth, I found, because I had a lot of time management skills kind of built up from that, and I was able to transition to university with them. I think the biggest thing that helped, and that I'd like say you should try and learn in high school, is just being able to know when to give up on something or like triage assignments, because sometimes you just have too much to do in one week. And I had friends who would try to always get 100 on whatever they were working on, and they'd just get owned later on in the week or whatever because they spent so much time doing one thing worth like 1% of their mark.
Right.
But that helps a lot with transitioning and just being able to manage my time and being able to kind of go, okay, I know I'm not going to do great on this midterm or on this final, but I know I'm going to be able to pass, and that's okay with me.
Right, that makes sense. And actually, Ishita had another question from the chat that she'll go ahead and ask.
Yeah, I think this was kind of building more off of question 1, but someone asked in the chat if Pascal would be recommended for those who are new to programming.
So does anyone on the panel have maybe any experience with Pascal, or maybe could let us know if they found it useful yet at any point in their degree? Feel free to chime in, like if anyone does know or found it useful at all. And so I guess that's indeed a no. So maybe it might not be the best practice for those who are new to programming. Personally, at least I can say from my own experiences in software engineering at Mac, I'd recommend more so getting into Python and Java first, and then kind of building off from there. Or maybe even starting with something more fun, as suggested by Nicholas, like HTML and CSS, JavaScript, that kind of fun stuff that you're not really going to learn in school. Then they might not focus on it, but it is something interesting for you to go through. So coming back to question 2, actually now, maybe we'll have, let's have Grace answer this one. What was your transition like from high school / CEGEP to university?
So I did the IB program, and honestly, the transition to high school to university was a little bit hard. It was actually pretty hard because not only you're focusing on academics, you're also focusing on your lifestyle. So like having a healthy schedule, making sure that you're eating healthy, that you're taking care of your body. Oh, and sleep. I found out
100%, I agree.
Man, the first few weeks of uni was pretty fun. I like stayed up really late and then like played hard and stuff like that. But after that, I realized it was a big mistake because you're kind of screwed if you ruin your sleep schedule. So I would suggest, like, no matter how tempting it is to stay up late and play with your friends, you have to learn how to say no and sort of like take care of yourself first. So I would say that in high school, people would have like focused more on academics, getting good grades, and prioritizing assignments. But in university, you have to change that mindset to like prioritizing your health, your mental health, your physical health. You might have to sacrifice a few assignments or like a few like marks that are not like a big percentage of your course, because honestly the workload is very, very different than from high school. So
I agree 100%. Oh my God. Let me give just the audience a little bit of insight before we move into the McMaster questions, actually, because there's a couple of McMaster questions in the chat. But just a little bit of insight. Some assignments in first year at McMaster, you'll end up having assignments with 0.41% of your mark. Now, these assignments can be like close to 20 really long and difficult and tedious physics questions. So do I recommend staying up all night for them? No, not really. But has it happened before to some people who needed that extra 0.41%? Yeah, but I really wouldn't necessarily suggest it. Don't really kill yourself over that. If you have, like, say, 2 giant assignments due and you have that one little 0.41%, I'd give up the 0.41% for the other 20% assignments that you're likely going to see. Now, coming back to the questions in the chat, at any McMaster student, was it difficult for you to get your first choice for engineering? And were you able to get your first choice? So this is either John or Farzan. Feel free to jump in and answer.
Yeah, I replied to him. I answered. I was able to get my first choice, but it was only due to like I had to grind in second semester because first semester was kind of a bad transition for me, so my GPA was kind of low. But if you have a really high average in high school, you'll get what's known as free choice. So you'll be able to just choose your stream without like, even if your average is just shy of it, or completely far from it, you'll be able to choose your stream without worry. That's really helpful, honestly, because it just relieves stress from you. I had that, but I didn't end up using it because it's just nice to know that, hey, if I messed up this midterm, it's not too much of a big deal. It just helps you just do your best.
Right. And John, what about you?
Yeah, so I was also able to get my first choice, but much like Farzan, I wasn't able to do it like just without any studying. I had to study so hard and make sure I was on my assignments like all the time. And so yeah, you really need to put like all that effort in order to get that specialization. And that is unless you have a free choice or if you're in like one of the iBios or something.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. So, and then I have to agree with that, honestly, because that was really, that was one tough thing. If you didn't have free choice, it was definitely a grind. And even if you did have free choice, a lot of people realize that if you slack off first semester university, or if you keep slacking off throughout first year, it doesn't impact you too well in the long run because you don't build those essential study habits as you go through. And then we had another question from McMaster students. I'm not sure if this has been answered yet in the chat because I can't really see it, but how is McMaster CS? Oh, computer science co-op. Does anyone? Well, I guess we could give you the software eng perspective from. We don't have any CS students right now, but we do have software eng students who could maybe give you some perspective, and we also have computer eng who can give you some perspective because our co-op is pretty much all the same. But if you'd like to go ahead, Farzan.
Yeah, the CS co-op is kind of similar to software eng co-op. Both programs are really similar. Like we had 4 of the same courses this year. After you do your training for co-op, you get a job board, and honestly, you can apply to any or all jobs that you find or interested in. There's jobs from like all different areas. You got like Intel jobs, Tesla internships, basically anything from local to like one of the big name companies. But again, you really either need like a good resume, like a lot of like projects or experience, or you need like a really good GPA. If you have both of those, that's better. Like you're gonna get into something good if you have a really good resume and a really good GPA, of course. Sorry, Addie asked another question. How I'll just answer that in text.
All right. Okay, so then we had one question specifically for Hewitt. Some people say mechatronics is a jack of all trades and that you don't really specialize in anything, but rather know a little bit about everything. And would you say that's true or false?
That's like mostly true, I think, and that's kind of why I'm switching into comp eng. There's definitely benefits to mechatronics, and you can specialize in 4th year. Like you're allowed to do a comp eng option where you take all comp eng courses, but there's definitely a degree of like kind of jack of all trades. The one thing that kind of made me really want to switch is the microprocessors course I took this semester, which I really enjoyed. But it was kind of like when you compare it to comp eng courses, it's in one semester, it's combining like 3 separate comp eng courses. And that's kind of like, so I just felt like I wasn't getting the degree of learning that I wanted to. And then I'm still doing mech courses, which at this point kind of aren't super useful for me if I want to do more embedded related things. So yeah, like there's definitely the advantage of being able to kind of figure out what you want to do later on, but you end up not knowing as much as you would if you just went into mech or if you just went into comp eng or comp sci.
Right. So picking a specific stream obviously will teach you a lot more about that specific stream, but then in mechatronics, as in most schools, it's kind of a mix of 3 different programs at the same time. So yeah, you'll probably end up finding out a lot about those 3 different streams. And then coming back to, I guess, a general question, how much does GPA matter in university? And I think I'd like Govind to answer this one.
I mean, I really just finished my first semester, and I feel like it would be important for co-ops, but I don't really have experience. But I would definitely suggest trying to keep a decent enough GPA. As long as you're not completely throwing your courses and your marks, you should probably be fine in university. At least that's my mentality. I'm not really trying significantly as well. I'm not trying as hard as I did in high school to get like 95 pluses, but you know, it comes as an extra bonus if you can manage to get it, to be honest. But yeah,
Right. So it's
that's my
more
thought.
like a perk than like a necessity at this point. And that's true. I completely agree. When you're getting into university, I feel like it's more of a struggle because it's like, okay, now I have to grind really, really hard to get into my program. And for general first years, they probably also understand that you grind really hard again to get into your second year program. But, you know, it's not as crazy once you're fixed in one program that you want to be in.
Yeah,
And then, yeah.
because I was considering McMaster before I got my offer into Waterloo, right? So I was I was very stressed about my GPA and stuff because it's general first year for Eng, I believe, because I was considering software Eng, and yeah, it's good to know that you don't have to. You're in a program rather than having to do a general first year, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's definitely an advantage. Actually, Nicole, you're also in a almost like, actually Nicole and Tara both, but I'll have Nicole answer this first. What about you? What do you think about GPA and how much it basically matters in university?
In university, I don't think it matters that much as long as it's decent. In engineering science, it's really difficult to get like 4.0 GPA just because you're doing so many different engineering courses at once. It's just a lot of content and a lot of different subjects at once. So very difficult, but I'm pretty sure it's not that important, your GPA, for graduating at least. As long as you have experiences along the way, I think, such as like PUI, and UofT actually offers another program. It's called Engineering Summer Internship Program. So if you do a lot of extracurriculars, you do internships, I think those are more important than your GPA. Your GPA has to be just average, and that would be good, I think.
So that's a good perspective on that too, because it's like you don't necessarily need to, as everyone I think has been saying, you don't really need to kill yourself too much for a crazy high GPA. But yes, like a good GPA helps out a little, definitely. Like if you're looking for a co-op or you're trying to, I'd assume in the PUI program it's the same, where you kind of need to have like a somewhat decent GPA, and then as long as you're working hard enough and you can support it with extra projects and maybe extracurriculars and stuff like that, that'll definitely help you out. And then we had another question actually in the chat looking into, if the goal was a career as a programmer, would majoring in computer science or software engineering be better? And then who better to ask but Tara, who's actually, I think you're doing both, right? You're majoring in one and then you have a minor in the other.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. Honestly, I feel like it doesn't matter too much, at least from my experience. I think both programs offer almost the same courses in terms of like programming, but I think for software engineering, at least at Western, and I'm sure at a couple other universities, in first year, you're kind of just in the general engineering, so you end up having to take physics and I think chemistry and things like that. But for computer science, you don't need to take the more like science related courses because you're just in computer science. But in terms of jobs and like, I guess internships and things like that, I don't think that there's a preference towards one or the other. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a preference. I'm not sure if any other of the panelists want to speak on that.
Does anyone else have like maybe a conflicting opinion that's like, marks are essential and they're kind of like the most important thing to getting your co-op?
No, I just want to echo what everyone said. Like obviously keep a respectable GPA, but other than that, it's all about the extracurriculars and the hackathons and the side projects. That's really what employers are looking at. And obviously at the end of the day, your technical skills at an interview.
Yeah, because the thing is a lot of companies, and this is just from my personal experience when I was applying in first year, a lot of companies actually they put a lot of weight on how you performed in the technical interview and whether or not you had some sort of extra projects. So keep that in mind when you're applying for any sort of co-op, guys, because that's really important. Have some sort of extracurricular or some sort of project to kind of justify what you've been doing in university. Because I mean, maybe in our parents' time, it might have been enough to be graduating with your degree, but I mean, what we've been seeing in the job market is that that's not really enough anymore. And then at U of T students, I've heard a lot of negative things about PEY/co-op at U of T. Is this true? Are the job banks and support from U of T that bad? So I guess this goes to you, Nicole. Nicole? Okay, I think maybe you might be on mute. I'm not really sure. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure when Nicole's back or when she's unmuted, she can answer that one.
Hi, sorry, my
No,
Wi-Fi
go ahead.
cut off.
Oh, okay.
But
I'll repeat then.
What were you saying?
I have heard a lot about, so this is a question in the chat. It says, I've heard a lot about a lot of negative things about PEY co-op at U of T. Is this true? And are the job banks and support from U of T that bad?
Okay, I would say that it's somewhat true. Right now, I have the job board open. There are postings definitely, and if you apply to them, you have a higher chance as you would if you applied like just on the employer site or on LinkedIn or wherever. So they have connections. They have a person representing the school that's gonna like try to arrange you, right? They have those. But I don't think they don't have much support for it as some other schools like Waterloo. And this year they're enforcing this new PY co-op arrangement. I think like starting first year, they're gonna like prep you some way, but then the price is gonna raise. I know for a fact that's gonna happen. So I think for incoming students, it might get worse, it might get better, but something's changing for the first years this year. They're trying to add some more stuff and with like a higher price or something. I don't know how that's going to work out. But as of now, yeah, they just have a job board. You just have to take one course and pray that you get accepted somewhere. But it's definitely not as maybe like Waterloo and yeah, reputable co-op.
Right. So it's kind of
That's
more
what I would
like,
say.
okay, you have to kind of grind it out by yourself almost, like try and look for those co-ops on your own, I guess. So that's one perspective on that. And then definitely I've heard both good and bad things. On one hand, guys, like whenever you have a co-op program anyways at any university, don't be fooled into thinking just because you go to somewhere where there's a more reputable program, you might get a co-op basically handed to you. You'll still have to put in the work. So like, all at any co-op at any university, you still have to put in the work. You still have to apply. You have to fix your resume. You have to get things checked, all of those things. Like that's all still really important. And then I just saw a general question. What kind of extra projects would you recommend we pursue? So I'm going to hand that over to Nicholas, actually. What kind of extra projects would you recommend that we pursue?
Yeah, so I actually just answered the question in the chat, but basically do anything you want. Like I always tell people to ask me when they're trying to learn how to code or whatever, just literally to come up with any app you wish you had, or any website that you've ever wished you had, or literally anything, or even something that already exists but you want this slight feature added, or you wish it was blue instead of red in the UI. Literally anything, even if you're copying something that already exists, and just tell yourself, okay, I want to do it, and then you need to learn all the steps and learn everything along the way to do it. So first of all, you'll for sure learn new technologies, new ways of approaching whatever problem and stuff like that. And whatever project you have at the end, as long as the employer knows that you're passionate about it and that you did this on your own time and it's just you find it fun to program, that's all they're looking for. So you can literally build anything. It could be a website, it could be anything backend related, it could be even almost a little bit of research with a little bit of coding on the side and making a Medium article about it. Literally do anything and just be passionate about it, and that's all the employers are looking for, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that, definitely. Like something that you're kind of passionate about, automatically you're more interested in doing it, and it doesn't matter if it already exists. Like put your own spin on it if you really want to, and it honestly, as long as you enjoy doing it and it's something that you can put through on your GitHub, it's definitely useful. And then for Waterloo CS, so anyone can answer if they wish to. What is the co-op situation like? I realize it's really bad right now because of COVID, but it appears that they also increased the class size from roughly 350 to 800. Are we seeing growing pains? So does anyone have an answer to that from CS?
I mean, I wouldn't know about the co-op situation necessarily, because I'm first year, right? So it makes sense. But the thing about the 350 to 800 thing is true. There's been a significant jump in the number of people admitted this year, but I mean, it's not too bad. The class averages are higher, but I mean, I feel like that's probably mostly due to online classes. But other than that, I haven't really noticed something that would make, I guess, your university experience bad. As like right now, it's pretty fun, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
so it's like you're not sure yourself kind of thing, and where I get that too. It's like, how would you really honestly know in first year, like, you know, if the co-op situation is like is bad or good, I guess, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of like, okay,
I mean,
so then no, go ahead.
I mean, for the courses that we are taking, all the profs did say there aren't any weeding processes going on, so I'm just gonna trust them and hope that they're not gonna make the courses significantly hard, and just move on. Because I mean, there's nothing you can effectively do about the 800 students admitted, right? You just have to move on and try your best. So.
Right. And if the profs are really saying that we're not trying to fail you guys and get you, like, you know, lower class averages or whatever, then I guess that's the only word you can really take, right? You can choose to think it's a lie, and that's up to you, but that just kind of increases your stress. So you might as well go with it. Like, that's what we've been doing as well. The profs say they're not trying to drop averages as well in second year, and it makes sense. Like, maybe they're not, but I don't know. Can I say yes or no? Not really. So you know how it is. That's university for you, I guess. But okay, let me move along then. I'll pull on to the next question, guys. And then Govind, you can actually start us off if you want to. What kinds of extracurriculars do you participate in? Or I guess for those who might not be participating right now, what did you participate in maybe high school? And how's that been impactful on your student experience in university?
In high school, I actually was what we call the executive member of my math club, but it's more or less like a math club, and you essentially, I guess, teach students and get them prepared for contests. And that was pretty fun. I got to share some knowledge to students, and I got to help them out with their math questions. I was also in band. I played the baritone, so a lot of the concerts you went to, and especially rap, which is repertoire. You stay after school and practice with your friends. It really helps build build teamwork and helps your communication skills, and you can build a lot of friends that way. So especially so extracurriculars in high school are pretty fun. In university, because it's been online, it's been kind of hard to be in clubs. There's one club that I know of and I am in, which is the UWaterloo Data Science Club. It's pretty cool. We there's people we they usually have meetings, I think on Thursdays, if I recall correctly. And you get to learn about different data science topics, and it's pretty fun, to be honest. Other than that, I don't know much.
No, that's actually good. I remember in first year, me and a lot of my friends actually didn't participate in clubs. So doing that in the pandemic, just for the audience and just, I guess, everybody, it's really admirable, and it's really good. It'll kind of enrich your experience because you don't get much interaction with anybody aside from that. If we could pass the torch on then to Jackie, what kind of extracurriculars have you participated in, and how's that been impactful in your student experience?
Hi, so I'm actually the majors representative for the Society of Undergraduate Mathematics Students at McGill. And one of the big things that I did this year was, given that basically the honors representative and I both saw the possible social impact that COVID basically was going to have, and we decided to just start our the SUMS, which is the abbreviation for the organization. The SUMS Discord server, that's basically going to be a online community for the students. And so for that, I just wrote the bot for verification and all sorts of stuff, and ran some surveys, which the profs were still in very frequent contact with. They were basically plugging our server. A few profs have their office hours in the server.
So it kind of got that big that profs were actually interacting on the server really properly, really well, kind of thing.
Well, it's actually the thing about the office hours is that it's only the TA, because we made a rule that the profs cannot join. So that if students want to just say whatever they wanted, they have the ability to do that. But we also made it clear that if you do that, some people are TAs, and whatever happens is your consequence, but profs are not allowed in here to see your chats. So that's something we try to do to deal with you're still free, because we're trying to emulate the physical lounge that actually exists on campus. And in that lounge, the profs never really passed by. So we're there doesn't make sense to allow profs to just snoop on students. So we basically have channels for every class that is offered under the math department and all these things. And we have 600 or 700 people in it, which I think is more than the math department. So I think a lot of different departments are also joining. We tried to do some activities for movie nights and just games. So that was the main thing in terms of extracurricular. I find it pretty fulfilling, at least satisfying to having taken part of.
Yeah, it must be, because you're kind of building that same I guess in-person community online. And for anyone who's in first year or going into first year, I guess it's important to try and look for those servers, because a lot of schools have them, maybe not to the degree that Jackie's of course describing, but to a certain degree, they'll have some sort of server that you can join in on if you're looking for friends, or if you're looking for someone to maybe game with, or whatever it is you want to do. You can find a server, not necessarily as big, but definitely you can find somebody who's from your school who hosts some sort of Discord server. Passing it on to maybe Grace, what about you? What kind of extracurriculars do you participate in, and how's that impactful on your student experience?
So I've joined the Waterloo knitting club. It's a very niche club. There's only 12 people in this club, I guess. I make amigurumi projects. I'll type it in chat if you want to look it up. Basically, since the pandemic has kind of made everything difficult, just have Discord calls, and we just knit and have a chill session and talk about life in general. And it's mostly a de-stressing type of club. So it's not really it's not an intense club that feels like a chore. So I feel like you should join extracurriculars that make you feel in an inclusive environment, and it's not like you're constantly feeling like you have to attend this thing as a chore, and it's like exhausting because academically school is like very exhausting already. You just want an extracurricular that sort of like takes away this exhaustion.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, participate in whatever you guys want to, but definitely having one club, maybe at least it's not like related completely to your major, will kind of broaden your horizons, make you a little more calm. Then you don't have to treat it as seriously as you treat the rest of school. So I agree with that, definitely. And then maybe moving on to John, you want to talk about what kind of extracurriculars you participated in first year or maybe even now, and how's that been impactful for you?
So in my first year, I didn't really do any extracurriculars, especially in the first semester, and I haven't really done any technical ones. But the ones I do participate in, I am a tutor for a local community center in Hamilton. And so now we do virtual tutoring, and that's always been really fun. It's been kind of like a de-stressor for me, much like Grace with her club. And so like it gives me a lot, I find it just really fun to teach students, and so that's always been good. And I've also done like and also what's also really good, especially as you go into university, you find some kind of distressor, whether that be clubs, but also I have a couple hobbies. I do a lot of CADing and like 3D modeling, and that's like kind of art that I find really fun. So having some kind of de-stressor for university life is super important. And so like it helps me like, get through all of university and such.
Nice. Yeah. And I agree. Like, also giving back to a community kind of through tutoring is really good. In some
Sure.
universities, you can even get paid for it, right? Like, I mean, if you're on McMaster, for example, you can do Tutor Ocean, which is basically students tutoring students for like cheaper prices than regular tutors. So if you want to do that, if anyone's interested in that, if you're thinking of going to McMaster, I think Waterloo and U of T both have something similar. And I've heard of something at Western. I'm just not quite sure what the name is. But yes, I've heard of certain programs like this, like that actually allow upper year students to basically tutor younger students or even high school students on the side for a little bit of extra money. And it kind of helps in paying your student debt off and many other things. It's really fulfilling, and it keeps you remembering things you learn in class as well. So let's segue into the next question, I guess. What keeps you motivated during the pandemic? And if we could start off with Nicole.
Yeah, sure. What kept me motivated? I guess just realizing that how about I'll think about it and then I'll answer in 1 second.
Sure. I'll come right back to you after. So you want to start us off then, Nicholas?
Yeah, sure. What kept me motivated during the pandemic? Honestly,
it's a little tough, eh? Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, what changed for me is mostly like, yes, it sucks you can't see your friends in school and you can't see your friends at all, at least in our case in Montreal for most of the time. And you can't go out and stuff. But I guess the upside of that is there was no commute time, which was pretty cool. And so I found myself just working on more side projects, coding, learning about things that I didn't know. And I guess to keep you motivated, you just got to find what you're passionate about, whether it be actually tech if you're in computer science. And it could not be tech, it could be absolutely n'importe. It could be anything on the side. I've also gamed a lot more, like with the next gen consoles coming out and everything. That has kept me motivated to stay in school and stuff, since I could late night game and not need to wake up really early for the commute and stuff. So I guess just continue doing what made you happy before the pandemic, and your friends, you will see them soon, and you can talk to them through Zoom and stuff, and you can find games to play online. So I think we'll all get through it. So that's the motivation.
Yeah, definitely. And there's like a variety of different ways you can still talk to your friends if you're feeling demotivated. Maybe like set up some study sessions and stuff like in-person kind of meeting works really well. What about you, Tara? How do you keep motivated during the pandemic?
Yeah, so I think around when the pandemic started, that was kind of around the time that I joined. I guess this is kind of connected to the last question, but that's when I joined Women in Tech Society at Western, and I think that definitely really fulfilled me. And although it was virtual, just like planning the events through Zoom and having like weekly meetings with the rest of the executives and stuff, it was really fulfilling because I think that's one thing that I discovered that I'm probably like most passionate about is just inspiring and getting like young females and young women in, that are interested in tech and kind of opening doors up for them. So that was definitely really fulfilling. And then also, yeah, I guess the flexibility kind of allowed me to just indulge more in like side projects and just figure out what I really like in terms of tech. So yeah, that was also around the time I started work last summer, an internship at Cisco. So that was really helpful. It definitely kept me busy. But yeah, I think just finding what you're passionate about was really helpful for me.
Right. And then let's segue actually let's double check with Nicole. Nicole, do you want to answer the what keeps you motivated during the pandemic? Nicole?
Hi, sorry, my Wi-Fi is cutting off. But yes, I have my answer. The reason why I struggled was because during engineering science second year, it is the hardest part of engineering science. So you have first year, which is difficult. Then second year, it's the first semester. It's the hardest because you have many different courses at once, and they're all like half courses. So you do like 2 different subjects in one semester, and then there's like 6 of them, right? So it's like more like 12, right?
Oh my God.
So that's why I struggle with the answer. To be honest, it was very difficult to stay motivated, but how I stayed motivated was I just talked to my friends. Ranting really helps, and realizing that you're both on the same page. You're both struggling with this certain subject, struggling with this certain thing, and recognizing that there are other people like you in your position really helps you push past the hard times. So that's the advice to give, is that you need friends to help you. You need to take breaks. And once you take those breaks, you have that fresh energy to stay motivated and finish off the semester. And once you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you have more motivation to finish. So yeah, that would be my advice: just to find friends that you can connect with and talk about your struggles with each other, and then you guys can motivate yourselves together.
All right. So yeah, make some friends in your program maybe and try and talk to them if you're struggling with something. I'm going to actually skip a little bit ahead to a question that I feel like might be really relevant for a lot of the students. I think it's what fields are most popular for people in your program? And by fields, I mean stuff like data science, business and analytics, maybe AI and machine learning, cybersecurity, or embedded systems, stuff like that. So let's start off with maybe Farzan.
I kind of came into software eng just because like I really liked programming and honestly just coding. I had nowhere else to go. But computer science is more focused on algorithms, and I think it leads more into cybersecurity and IT. Software eng is obviously like more software focused. Like you're just designing and developing softwares. But I think that's mainly like that's the main interest if you're going to software eng, because it's literally in the name. I don't know if anyone else has more to add to that.
So actually, you know what? We might actually go for a computer science perspective on this. What about you, Grace? What do you think about, like, for computer science related stuff, what are the most popular like fields for people in your program?
I think right now data science is very popular. I'm not really sure because I'm only in first year.
Yeah, in first year, that's true. And I feel like that does hit a couple of points there, that data science is really big. Like stuff like embedded systems, by embedded systems, just in case someone might not get it, I mean like when you're interfacing computer software and hardware, which is a specific course that the computer engineers and software engineers at McMaster take. I'm pretty sure software engineers actually that's probably unanimous, like everywhere they kind of take it. But embedded systems, that kind of area is really popular for anybody who's doing computer science or software engineering. Maybe Hewitt, you can give us some perspective into what fields are most popular for people in your program. So you can talk about Tron or mechatronics like for right now, or you could even talk about computer engineering, whatever you feel most comfortable with talking about.
Yeah, so for Tron, there's a lot. The biggest one I see people, I'm in like second year only, so the biggest one I see people getting co-ops for is just like web dev, because that's where the most co-ops are, and that's also kind of the easiest to break into because you can do web dev side projects. Like there's less of a barrier to entry than doing like an embedded side project where you have to buy a microprocessor or join like a design team. But yeah, there's a lot of people doing web dev right now. I do think a decent number of people end up going into embedded systems, and like I'm doing an embedded systems co-op in a couple weeks. There's also a lot of people who end up doing mech related things like pure mech. I know a couple guys who got co-ops at like Tesla for mech stuff. But yeah, it varies a lot. And I think that's one of the pros of going into mechatronics is you can kind of figure out where you want to go with it and take it in that direction. Like you do have more range, even if you're not as specialized in one thing.
Right. So it's kind of like pick what suits you best, I'd guess. That's one of the advantages of being like a jack of all trades for anyone who's interested in mechatronics. At least from what I know at most of the programs that I looked at in high school, you kind of can apply for basically anything. Now, whether employers like or dislike that, that's more of an individual preference. I've heard a lot of employers who actually really like that people can do all three kind of categories of engineering, like generally to a certain degree. So it's really up to you, and it's up to what you're applying for and what you know that the industry kind of likes, and doing a little bit of research on your own or asking some of the upper year students and stuff like mechatronics or computer engineering and stuff like that will help you out in the long run. And then actually, Jackie, I wanted to ask you too, what kind of fields are most popular for people in your program?
Yeah, so I'm not in CS, but I do have a lot of CS friends who are like gunning for software positions. I know I have a friend who's working at Huawei. I don't know if he's still working there, but I know that the data science sphere is very popular. Most of my friends actually applied. I don't know their status there, but yeah.
Yeah. And so with data science and business and analytics, I feel like stats in general becomes like really, really important. So if you really like statistics and stuff like that, and of course in AI as well, those three kind of the first three parts are really relevant to you and to what you think you want to go into. So statistics will be really big for any of the first three. Actually, Ishita wanted to bring through a question in the chat. I can't quite see it.
Yeah, just a general question. I think this might speak to a lot more people as well. But I think someone had a question about what the difference exactly is between computer science and computer engineering.
So, John, if you'd like to start us off with that one, and then I'll move into more of the CS folks.
Well, I'm not too in depth with like what computer science like exactly covers, but I know for the most part, when it comes to computer engineering, we cover like software and electrical stuff, and we cover kind of both of these things evenly. But computer science primarily focuses on like code and math and like the mathematics of it. Well, we don't really tend to go that far into it.
Yeah, and at most school, that's kind of why you have ECE, so the electrical computer engineering, like all together. And the reason for that is because computer kind of has a mix of electrical and software components. At least at McMaster, I'm not really sure if that's the same everywhere, but at least at McMaster, that's the case. So it's kind of a mix of electrical and software engineering, whereas computer science is at McMaster it's more purely focused on coding and mathematics and statistics and that kind of stuff. So we have the same courses. Software engineers have the same courses as computer science students in I think in second year. And then past that, I don't think we have any of the same courses, or if we do, it's very minimal, the overlap. But if anyone else wants to add in, though, go ahead.
Actually, building off of that question is a follow-up question about the difference between computer engineering and electrical engineering, now that I think John mentioned, and so did you, Anika.
Oh, okay. So then I guess back to you, John.
Yeah, I was just about to answer. So electrical engineering focuses on like the design and building of electronics and electrical systems, while computer engineering focuses on electrical design and programming. So it's like, so computer engineering is more so a mix of like software and electrical engineering. Electrical engineering just focuses on like all the electronic stuff.
Right. If anyone from any of the other fields like has something to add in or might have something to drop into this conversation, like go ahead. But yeah, like that's pretty concise. That pretty much explains it. There's more programming in computer engineering. So if you were to look, if your interest is purely coding, I'd suggest going into either computer science or software eng. But if your interest is like coding, but I want to do some interfacing and I want to do maybe a lot of interfacing simultaneously with my coding projects, so you might want to consider computer engineering because that will be really interesting for you. So you'll have that aspect that you're kind of lacking. And if you want to do maybe less programming and a lot more circuitry and building and stuff like that, then then electrical engineering. At least at McMaster, that's how I know it works. And I think Waterloo has something similar. I'm not so sure about UofT and Western, but if anyone wants to jump in with UofT Western or McGill or anything, anyone wants to jump in terms of that, if they know it, they can go ahead. So I guess maybe nobody wants to jump in on that. So I'll move into the next question, actually. This is one of my favorite ones because this kind of is the make or break question. Like, what was the toughest part of your university experience? And maybe we can start off with an upper year first, and then we'll go back to first year. So let's go with Nicholas. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. What was the toughest part of your university experience? Well, this semester has been very sucky, to say the least, being online. Concordia wasn't the best at managing that, but hopefully that's not a concern because that should be fixed relatively soon. The toughest part of your university experience? I'd say probably for like classes like math and stuff like that where you have to do a lot of exercises and stuff. I'm not one to sit down and do a lot of exercises in math, just like specifically in math. So math would have probably been the hardest thing for me. So if there's any advice I can give from that is that for classes like calculus, like advanced calculus and engineering calculus and all that, just do your exercises and it should be easy peasy. That's
Yeah, definitely do the suggested homework. I know it says suggested and it's like 80 exercises. I don't intend for anybody in the audience to do every single exercise. That's practically impossible if you're putting any effort into the other courses you're in. But doing a fair amount of exercises, my rule is if I understand the first exercise, a middle exercise, and most of the last exercises, which are the toughest ones. So for each section, say you have one section with like 60 exercises. If I can get a couple from the top, a couple from the middle, and maybe a couple from the bottom, then I know I'm pretty well set. Obviously, that depends on the section. So if I don't get any of the questions, then I'd have to do more questions in the section. That's up to you, though, like depending on what kind of course you're taking. Maybe we can actually have, let's see. Tara, do you want to give some insights? No,
if you don't mind me saying something, just also in general, not getting late in any assignment. Because once you're late in one assignment, it's the end. Like, it's hard to catch back up.
Definitely. So you kind of have to let that assignment. So like if you end up late in an assignment that you know is a major assignment, that can be a killer. Definitely. Don't be late on any of your 10-20% assignments, guys. It's not worth it. It's really not. Then you have to beg for extensions in some cases, and you might not get them because like profs do give you a significant amount of time. Sometimes they'll give you a whole month for one assignment for a final project. Don't leave it to the last minute if you can. Try not to leave it to the last minute. Actually, would you like to talk about your toughest university experience? I think it was Govind who was answering a second ago.
I don't think it was me, but yeah.
Oh, it wasn't me. Who was it?
No,
Go
I,
ahead,
I
go
was the
ahead.
one speaking about but me it's only like CJEP experience. I don't have I'm still in first
Oh,
semester of CJEP.
oh, okay. Then go ahead then, Govind, actually. Talk about the toughest part of your university experience.
I mean, I'd probably say time management because in high school, I mean, because the only courses I took in first sem was CS and math, and then there was Econ and a communications course, which was basically just English, but worse. But for math courses in high school, I felt like I didn't really have to put in a lot of work because it was just all as long as you have a calculator, you're fine.
Right.
But in high school, they focus a lot more on the theory, and your assignments and your quizzes will also probably focus a lot more on the theory side of things. So getting started on assignments early and working hard, and especially managing your time with said assignments was hard because I just more or less played games 24/7 in high school and did nothing. And I realized that it's not the case for uni because for some courses especially, you'll know when you're taught the topic that you'll probably do well on the assignment.
Right.
So some of them you can probably manage your time like that. Saying if you know a topic well, it's like, okay, yes, I can do this assignment easily. It's not too hard. I can leave it to the end. But otherwise, if you find a topic hard, definitely do it. Start early and get it done. Otherwise, probably gonna regret it. Yeah, time
in the
management.
long run.
Yeah, definitely. Because for my proofs class, once like the first 4 weeks or 4 to 5 weeks, well, before the midterm was pretty easy, and then the weeks after the midterm got significantly harder.
Right.
And I was in the same mindset, saying like, "Oh, this will be easy. I'll get it done in like a couple hours." But my time went from 4 hours on this course to 15 to 20 hours on the course every week, and yeah, managing
yeah.
time management's probably most important part, and it's probably the toughest of 1A or first semester in uni. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Same thing. I think that's universal throughout like first year. I completely agree. That's a very universal experience. Not that I've become like a master time manager like through second year, but yeah, first year it's quite terrible in the beginning. You're kind of like, okay, so how much effort and time should I really be putting into this? And then most computer science and like software engineers are kind of like, and computer engineers in any real like one of those fields are kind of all gamers. So spending time on the right things can be a little bit of a problem. Actually, this is there's a general question in the chat on computer science, and I'll address the UBC one a little bit after. But first, the computer science one is: are computer science programs more hands-on, application-based, or textbook reading / practice based? And actually, you can answer this, Govind, and I think also Grace can give us an opinion, and so can Tara, actually. So let's just go in that order. You go ahead first.
All right. Well, the program in general, I would say, because it's a lot of math, right? And from what I've experienced right now, the math is a lot of theory. Well, compared to high school, anyways. It's a lot more theoretical than what you would not normally experience. I've heard that my first calc course is a lot similar to the AP calc course.
Right.
And yeah, so if you can maybe go through that stuff, you'll probably do fine in the calc course. But the CS course is very hands-on. Yeah, all the assignments, you are coding stuff and you're submitting it online, and there's test cases that you have to pass. Yeah, the CS courses is very hands-on, as you would expect. But the math courses are much more theoretical. I know from my friend who's in software engineering that his calc course was basically just a repetition of grade 12 calc. So all he needed was a calculator to get through his assignments.
Right.
But it was not the case for me, because you definitely needed to know the definitions and what the actual meaning was behind the definitions to do well or do significantly well in the course.
Right. And just for anyone who doesn't know, math courses in university, like they kind of start you off with a lot of integration and that kind of calculus. It's not that, like, I feel like a lot of people find it's not too terrible first year, but as you go on, if you don't get those fundamental integration skills, it comes and bites you again in second year, because a lot of people still have to take math courses because they're in programming related programs, I guess, like coding related programs, and that kind of kills them in the end. Actually, Grace, if you wanted to speak a little bit on it as well, because you're in comp sci as well.
Yeah, so like Govind said, in first year we learned Racket, and basically nobody's ever heard of Racket. So you can't you cannot Google any answers or examples. You're kind of like left in the dark to like come up with your own solutions. But I think that it's very smart of them to do that, because there would be no cheating cases, right? Like some people would just copy and paste Google answers and examples. But with Racket, you're basically forced to like come up with very unique solutions. And I think that's like very important in terms of programming, because like you want to like come up with like innovative solutions. Like each person is not going to have the identical code or like exactly the same way of thinking. So it kind of like Waterloo kind of encourages like each person to have their own like innovative solution, and I think that's one of the reasons why computer science is more of a hands-on, like experimental type of learning.
Right. And then Tara, who's also actually doing CS, do you have anything to like kind of add on to this?
Yeah, so at Western in first year, you do need to take a calculus course and one other math course. And then in second year, you need statistics and I think one other math course, but it's optional because you get to choose between another math course or another CS course. So it's not really math heavy at Western, which could be good or bad depending on what your skills are. But for me, it ended up being beneficial because I feel like I did better in like the actual programming and coding courses than the math courses. In terms of whether it's hands-on, definitely the CS courses are pretty hands-on, especially in first year. Like we had weekly labs and stuff to test our knowledge, but I found in second year CS courses with like data structures and algorithms and like discrete like structures for computing and those types of courses, they were a little bit more theory based. Obviously we would have like our almost like monthly assignments, but other than that, it was mainly just watching the lectures and really making sure you understand the concept and the theory.
Right. Just as a note for anybody who might not know, a lot of, at least from what I know, a lot of the comp sci and software engine, computer engineering, any kind of like coding, like courses will tend to have assignments more so than midterms, because at least during the pandemic, I've noticed they've had a lot more assignments. So you'll have time to practice what you've learned in class through these assignments. Now, how much they're weighted at depends on the program, depends on the university, but finishing those assignments, and even if you don't get them maybe the first time and you submit them, you don't get maybe the highest mark, or you don't ace the assignment, redoing those assignments will help you in the long run when you have a midterm or a final project or a final exam. So actually completing those will help you out in the long run. And then I guess to end off the panel, because we're actually running at 8:30 now, I'll ask the last question that was in the chat. It was like, I know tonight we aren't talking about UBC, but I wanted to know how it compares to the unis that are in focus tonight. So if anyone has any insight or maybe applied to UBC or thought about going to UBC, might even have someone who they know at UBC, could anyone kind of answer to this? Otherwise, I can give a general opinion because I know I researched into it, but if anyone has anything to say.
When applying, UBC was a uni that I considered, but I didn't apply to it because I was lazy. But yeah,
they have an earlier application, I think, right? Isn't it that they have an earlier application?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I just couldn't be bothered to apply. Yeah, I just I really just didn't want to put in the work to apply, but UBC seems like an interesting school from what I've seen about it. I don't know much about their co-op or if they have one, but it seems fun. Well, I went to a bunch. I think I talked to one of the reps at a university fair, if I'm not wrong. And they seem very friendly, and they seem it seems like a fun school to go to. I mean, otherwise, other than that, I don't have an opinion on UBC.
Yeah, I practically I can give people basically no advice on this school, but does anyone else maybe also have some experience or some knowledge of UBC and how it compares to the other schools maybe? Okay, and that's a resounding silence from the panelists. So in all honesty, I would try looking online for that kind of information. What I do know about UBC is for engineering programs, it ranks one of the tops, like one of the top, if that matters to people, I guess, in the audience. It does rank quite high on the Maclean's like ranking for engineering programs. Obviously, guys, like don't take that as your first kind of, okay, where it ranks is where I'm going to go. That's not the only kind of thing you should be looking at, but I do know it ranks quite highly. I have friends who go to UBC, but not really for tech-related programs. So they've told me the campus is beautiful, and that's pretty much all I can tell you guys tonight. So hopefully, if you check that out or you do a little research on your own and try and connect with some upper years. I know it's kind of weird, but if you do connect with upper years at LinkedIn or student reps on LinkedIn, like UBC student reps, they can give you a little more insight, and they're really very helpful. Trying to email the school as well will give you some insight into like what exactly is going on at these schools, and what exactly you might want to know. If you have any specific questions, try asking them that, because I don't think anyone here would know much, I guess, about UBC. So anyways, we are actually we're kind of over time at this point, so I'll finish off with thanking all the panelists for joining us tonight and giving us some insight into what their programs are about. And on behalf of the Curious team, like, thank you to all the hackers who came out tonight. It's been such a pleasure to host this panel. I had a lot of fun talking to all the people on the panel, and like hearing some of your questions were really insightful. And as we kind of said before, feel free to reach out to any of the organizers if you have any questions afterwards, and I can try and connect you to a panelist or someone who I know who can help, or the other organizers can also help out. And yeah, so have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for having us. It was very nice. And if ever anyone has any technical questions or anything, feel free to DM for your hacks during the hackathon. If you guys have any technical questions or school questions about Concordia, feel free to send me a message.